Welcome to the Operation Game Night podcast. Back and better than ever. Joining me as always, Clayton Gable. How you doing, Clay?
I'm doing well, Travis. Greetings to you. I hope this has not offended you the way I've come to you today.
It has not. What?
You would get it if you played Ego, which stands for Extraterrestrial Greeting Organization. So in Ego, this is a game from 2025 by Reiner Knizia, put out by Bitewing Games as part of the Cosmic Silos trilogy that just got shipped to backers a few months ago. So anyway, back to my horribly landed joke at the beginning. The theme of this game is that you're going out to these other planets and you're trying to be ambassadors for the Extraterrestrial Greeting Organization, and you interact with these different planets, and if you come off badly, you get these offense tokens that are, tallied up as negative points potentially at the end of the game. So that's what I was referring to in my poor attempt at levity. But anyway, so Ego, I talked about Beowulf the Legend. This game is a re-implementation of Beowulf the Legend, which was, I think it was, maybe early to mid 2000s, 2010. I don't know. It was somewhere many years ago. And there are people that love that game. There are people that hate that game. There are people that think it's thematic. There are people that hate the theme. I was somebody who had a disproportionate liking to it, probably because of the theme. I like Beowulf. I think it's a cool story, and I enjoyed the game. But regardless, Bitewing saw enough promise in it that they thought they would put it out again and give it this fresh new coat of paint like they like to do. And in this theme, like I said before, you're going out to different planets and meeting with aliens and going through what is essentially a checklist of activities until the end of the game. So the way the game works is you start out and you are on a planet board, and the planet board's divided up into different groups, and you kind of go left to right through the planet board, and there are different activities on the board. There's like main activities and then sub activities. So some of the things you'll come up across are, just draw 5 cards. So that's like the first space on the first board, and it's kind of part of setup. You just get your first 5 cards. Then you'll go to the next space, and it'll be like, okay, now you can choose to draw 2 cards and discard 2 if you want to. So everybody has a chance to do that. And then there's like resupply spaces where you can choose to take different resources depending on what you might be needing at the time. So those are kind of like the little mini activities that happen, but it really all leads to and revolves around these auctions that take place.
Love that.
Yes, big fan of auctions and bidding. So the main type of auction that's used is one where you escalate. So one person starts, and the auction will have usually 2 types of symbols that you're looking for in your hand of cards. Your hand of cards is just made up of cards with these 5 different symbols. There's purple heads, there's weird green things, there's, they have words for them, but I did not come prepared enough to tell you what those words are. And the pink ones are wild. So if we go into an auction and it's looking for purple and orange, the cards in your hand that have purple and orange symbols are going to be the ones that you're going to be playing. So somebody starts out and they play 1 purple card. The next person can only play 1 card to match or exceed that previous player's card. This was kind of like the weird rule that threw me off for a little bit, but you cannot overshoot. You can only play 1 card unless the person before you played a card that had 3 symbols on. You could play 3 cards to get you up to the point where you could match that. But for whatever reason, Reiner Knizia does not want you, really beefing up the bids. He wants it to keep going around the table. So one person plays 1, the next person plays 1, match, gets back to the first person, match. And then kind of like for sale, it's a who's going to drop out first.
Okay.
And it stinks because you lose all your cards. And so you have to be mindful of how invested you're getting in this auction, because I was certain in the first auction of the game we played the other day, I had a handful of purples and oranges, and I was like, this is my auction. I'm going to win it. These people are wasting their time trying to keep up with me. And then it got around to me, and I didn't have any more purples and oranges. So I lost like 5 cards, ended up taking the lowest reward or penalty. So the way this game works is, like for sale, if you're the first one out, you take the number 3 chip. If you're the second one out, you take the number 2. And then the person who's the last one standing takes the 1 chip, and they can then proceed to claiming their rewards. So the rewards will give you anything from like these special power cards that like have really beefed up symbols on them. Like those are the ones I'm talking about, like have like 4 green symbols on them, where normally in the normal deck you have 1s or 2s of a color on a card that you can play. You can get victory points. So the aim of the game is to get victory points. So you can just, grab some of those by winning an auction. You can get rid of offense tokens, like I mentioned before. We'll get to it, but there is another big, so like the big aspect of the game is these auctions, but then the sub below that are these risk events, which is awesome. So we're talking about 2 things I love: auctions and then pushing your luck. So before each auction, usually there's a risk event. And these are events where you can say, I want to draw 4 cards off the top of the deck. And it'll tell you on that event what symbols you're looking for. So if it says you're looking for purple and green symbols, you draw 4 off the top. If all the cards are purple and green, you get to keep all those cards. And it's a complete success. If some of the cards are purple and green, you get to keep the ones that were purple and green in your hand. You discard the rest, but you've offended the aliens a little bit. You came off a little awkward. And you take offense tokens for that. And then if you completely fail, you drew 4 cards, none of them were ones you could keep, you just fail. So you're getting those offense tokens for that. And then the cool thing I didn't mention about the auction is every time it comes around to your turn, you can choose to take a little mini risk where you can draw 2 cards off the top of the deck. And if they match the cards, the symbols for that auction, you can play them out. And same way as the other one, if only one of them's good, it's a partial success and you take an offense. If none of them are good, you're just out of the auction.
And the offense tokens are negative points at the end of the game.
It is weird. So it's not that weird. So there's like a scale, and you have a little, player aid next to you that shows you if you have 0 offense tokens, you get like plus 20 points at the end of the game. And then it starts, the more you get up to like 5, you're getting positive points. But if you get more than 5 at the end of the game, you start losing points. So it's an interesting little balance of, how risky do I want to make my little voyage out into the solar system? But this was one of the key things that the Bitewing guys did to improve upon, depending on your take, the original Beowulf the Legend game, because, it's broadly the same what I'm saying here. But during the risks in Beowulf the Legend, if you failed, you got a wound, which is similar to the offense token. In this one, it has that middle step of like a partial success, where that's where you get the penalty. So I guess they wanted to make it, in the old way, it was super punishing if you risked and failed, because not only did you not get anything, you also got a wound. In this one, if you half succeed, you get a wound. So you at least got something and you're getting a wound, versus the other way. So I think that's kind of a nice like gradation there that, is probably a little easier for people to, but it does feel kind of weird when you kind of succeeded and you still take a wound. Or defense token.
If I remember correctly, because you've talked about Beowulf the Legend before, you told the story about how you were Cleo Wolf in high school.
Yes.
But to me, it sounded like that was a more linear thing. Like you go through the story of Beowulf, like step by step.
Yeah.
It seems like this is kind of choose your own adventure, or is it like the steps are already laid out? You're doing a risk and then doing a bid and then or auction, then doing risk and then auction, or whatever that order is. But
great segue, Travis, because that's the other thing that I keyed in on that's very different from Beowulf the Legend is that Beowulf the Legend was one board, start to finish. You're following his journey, like you said. In this, they made it more modular. So there's a ton of different planet boards, and each planet board has a very linear path you go down on that board. But before the game starts, you pick a variety of these, maybe randomly. I don't remember how it says in the rule book. I just did the starting way. And you get to pick a random set of these planets, and then you lay them out in a linear way. So the paths within the boards are linear, but how you choose to, arrange those throughout your journey is different, and it's going to change up the gameplay because you do have to look ahead at what auctions are coming up and what type of symbol cards you need. Are you really depleted in this symbol that's coming up? Maybe you need to take this risk that nobody else took because, if it comes to that next auction, you're going to end up getting in last. And there is one board called the Sinister System, which everything that like winning the auction is still, you have a bad thing happen, but it's less bad than the other things. So there's just like interesting differences there. The other type of auction is just a blind auction. So those are, pretty standard. You take your cards, you set them down, you reveal. Whoever had more symbols gets the highest reward, next highest, so on and so forth. So basically you're just going through these boards, and there's just like different, it really is just a game of like little micro decisions just laid out before you, like nothing feels like it's really matters that much at the time. It's like, well, do I take 2 cards or do I take an alliance chip, or do I take this little risk here, maybe take an offense? But you do that 20 times over the course of the game, and then you have the auctions, which are kind of the crescendos of those decisions. And I think I'm just delighted by it. I think I've enjoyed it more than anybody I've played it with by a long shot. But it's just so novel to me, and it incorporates so many things I like in games. Like I said, auctions and bidding and pressing your luck. And just, it's like nothing I have in the way it's laid out, like just setting that path before you. And it really is just like going through a checklist. Like, all right, now we're at this spot. Everybody who wants to draw 2 gets this card 2. Okay, here we go. All right, now we're at a resupply. Here, let's do this. And it just hums along at this like nice little clip that I find really enjoyable and like procedural. And I don't know. How's it sound to you, Travis?
It sounds great. I was sold on this game when you described Beowulf the first time. This one, I would love to get this played. I feel like, what is the recommended player count on this one?
So that's a good point. It's 2 to 5 is what it plays at, but it says best at 5. I would argue it's probably best at 3 or 4. Okay. But 5 might go a little long for some people's taste.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. But at 2, I've played it a couple times at 2, and it works fine. Like Mary and I could rip out a game of this in like 30 minutes.
Oh, nice.
The problem with it 2 players is, for every player count, they have a little piece that you put on the auction spot that covers up a certain amount of the rewards. So when you're playing with 2 players, there's only 2 rewards. And the way they have it covered up is that like usually one is going to be really good and one's going to be really bad. Mm-hmm. So, you may go get in this back and forth in this auction, spend up all your stuff, and you end up in last against another person, and you get that like bad thing versus a good thing. And that just creates a lot of disparity between the 2 players right away. Yeah. Whereas when you have more of those rewards to choose from, you can kind of like find a middle ground and find like a better place to pull out. So it's I would say 3 was nice. I played it at 3. I imagine 4 would be pretty good.
Yeah.
5, I think, yeah, I think 5 might be much for me, but I like this game. I wouldn't mind playing it for, 90 minutes because I just, the way it changes up like every step of the way, it's not redundant. It doesn't feel like you're doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just unique. It's cool.
Do you feel like you talked about the little decisions and how they move along at a great clip because they don't seem all that heavy of decisions at the time, right?
Yeah.
Take the cards or don't take the cards, and then you move on.
Yeah.
Does this game come to a satisfying climax, or is it like you make all these little decisions and then like everyone's journey just ends and then we tally up the points? Because I imagine Beowulf kind of got more and more difficult to this final encounter, right? Like something like that is told as a story.
Yeah.
Is there a story in this one that it builds to, or like this climax of the story, or does it just kind of fizzle out, small decisions all the way, and then let's tally up points at the end?
I would say Beowulf the Legend, definitely you feel that climax more, just because it was a very thought out pattern. And like the end is like the big fight against the dragon. And, you can basically spend all your symbols as like points in the auction.
Okay.
But in Ego, you do have, I believe, you always start with the same board and you always end on the same board.
Okay.
And the ending board is kind of this like catch-all, hey, this is where you can cash in a bunch of stuff that you might have been saving up over the course of the game. Like if you kept 3 wilds in your hand, you can turn those in for 10 points. You can do, things like that on the final board where, and that's something that every time I've played, I get to that board and I'm like, oh crap, I forgot I could have been like, actually thinking about these things I can trade in here. Because the other, and I won't go too much into this, but there is money. So there's points and money, and those two are not the same. And you can get money for like different rewards. And there's like a treasury system that you go to where everything revolves around money. And essentially money, then at some point during your journey, you have options to trade in money for points. Okay. And so it's just like a weird kind of like 2 resource economic system, but it's fun. And once you get the hang of it, I want to play this game all the time. I enjoy it that much. I've just not had the people that I played it with, either Beowulf or this one, that were like as stoked about it as I am.
Yeah. That's always the problem.
I know.
Always the problem for board game enthusiasts that really love games is that there's always a gap in enjoyment between them and the next highest person, right? Yeah. But we've sang Bitewing Games praise a lot on this podcast. How does this rack and stack amongst their other like reskins that you've played?
Love it. I mean, the
S tier,
maybe A tier.
Okay.
Just because I think the layout of it's kind of messy. Like when you look at the layouts of the planet boards, like it's kind of like a cluttered graphic design. It's fine. Okay. Like you can figure it out. And the best part about it is I got the deluxe components. I don't know what it would feel like to play with cardboard things, but the deluxe like little poker chip points that you get and the offense tokens are this, I don't even know what the proper description is. They're like resin, big, thick tiles. Oh, I mean, that. So S tier if you have the deluxe components, maybe A tier if not, just because of some of the graphical design. But either way, I said it when I played Beowulf. Like I've not played any games that like have this similar structure to them, where it's just like this weird checklist procedure of things to go through that constitute the game, and it's cool.
Yeah, simple mechanics that can be ingeniously applied to something more complex and like pull some enjoyment out of something that is so simple. That is what is great about games like this.
Yeah,
you can sit down, teach them to anyone. The decisions that you're making are not all that hard, and people are able to like get a story out of it and get an experience out of it that is enjoyable.
For sure.
Awesome. Did we do it?
We did it.
This has been Ego by Bitewing Games. I have been your host, Travis Smith. He has been the most excellent debriefer, Clayton Gable. This has been Operation Game Night. And I am losing.
We come in peace.
We come in peace, and we're out.